I don't know that like I write books like this in any other way, but I think the idea of centering a story around a curious girl who makes her own choices and isn't directly punished for going outside of the norm, I think that I will always think about my heroines that way, because I don't think I ever realized that they couldn't be like that, because I had this book at such a young age.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Without These Books. I am your host, Allison Roach. Without These Books is a thank you inspired video podcast where each episode celebrates the authors, books, and characters that changed us as writers, readers, and as people. So, today on our show, we have a wonderful guest who I am so excited to talk to. Her name is Aminah Mae Safi, and she's a Muslim American author. She has written books called Not the Girls You're Looking For, Tell Me How You Really Feel, and finally, This Is All Your Fault, which was just released in October of 2020. Great. So, Aminah, I'm so excited to talk to you. So, what is the book that you chose?
I am so excited to talk to you too. I chose E.L. Konigsberg's From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. The premise of this book is basically Claudia Kincaid has decided that everybody who runs away has made a mistake, and what they need to do is not run away from somewhere, but run to somewhere else. So that's like the opening premise, is that she wants to run not away from home, but to the Met. And she enlists her little brother. And the reason she enlists her little brother is because he is the best saver in the family and he has the most money. So right off the bat, you get this like very clever, a little bit mercenary heroine who's like, I would like to go on an adventure. My home life is fine, but I have things to do. I have places to be. And number one, I would like to spend the night in the Metropolitan Museum in New York's decorative collection. Can't blame her for that. And along the way, there's like a mystery she unravels of a statue and a woman named Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, because this book is literally from the 60s. So just like heads up, there's probably some dated stuff in it. And it's just a girl who decides to go on an adventure for herself, and she enlists her brother because he's got money, and they end up having a good sibling bond, which I love family and stories. So that is the book that I picked.
So, when did you first read it?
That is what I've been trying to figure out, and I honestly cannot remember. I looked at this edition, and this edition says it's from 1998, which means I was maybe 11 or 12. But I could have gotten this because I liked it and I had picked it up somewhere else. I keep trying to remember like how I found this book, and I just remember it was on a shelf and I picked it up and I read it, and it was just fun. Like it was fun, and it had history and art, and I was a really active kid, but I loved those things too. Like I loved going to the museum. I loved history. I was rambunctious in the museum trips, but I loved them. So I think that really spoke to my interests and spoke to the things that I loved.
Totally. Well, it sounds like it's just a very curious protagonist that's a girl that is allowed to be curious and hungry. And I feel like, I mean, I don't know a lot about kids' books since I read kids' books when I was a kid, but that I never saw that, where you can just go and get whatever you want. That's just what she seems like she's doing. She's just going to get what she wants.
Yeah, she's like, I have questions and I'd like to go find out about them, and I'd like to go have an adventure. And I think that's so true. And I think so many kid like books of this era especially had a lot of orphans, where it's like something really bad happened and you were forced on an adventure, something really, or like you just thinking of even like kids books where it's like kids end up somewhere like Matilda, where like their home life is awful and they have to find their own way, right? And this is not anything as awful, or this is not something bad has happened, which I'm glad that those stories also exist. But this is very much like, I am curious and I want to go on an adventure, and I want to plan it myself, and I want to think about what I want to do, and then I want to go on it, and then ride the wave of that adventure as it's happening. Which was really different, especially for a girl character, I think, to be able to be curious and to be rewarded for that. Like her journey isn't about being punished, or like she ran away and she deserves to be punished. It was very like she ran to the Met and she was excited to figure this out, and then she found another mystery and she kept following that lead, and it's kind of Nancy Drew-esque in that way, and she ends up at this like old lady's home who, I think it's like a Michelangelo. I think there's something to do with a Michelangelo in it. So it's like she's rewarded for going on an adventure rather than punished, which I thought was really engaging as a child.
Right. And since you probably read this at a young age, do you think it influenced your writing in any way, or your approach to writing, or your taste, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it had to have. I think it had to have influenced the idea that you can pick your own adventure and that you can be curious and that you can be a little bit mercenary and that the story can be about you and that um, I think there's also something in the idea of like you can make your own mess and then clean it up, which I really like, right? She goes on an adventure, she makes a mess of the Bet's decorative collection, but then she also finds this other mystery and like keeps going and learns to be a part of a different story and follow that lead with that curiosity. So I don't know that like I write books like this in any other way, but I think the idea of centering a story around a curious girl who makes her own choices and isn't directly punished for going outside of the norm, I think that I will always think about my heroines that way because I don't think I ever realized that they couldn't be like that because I had this book at such a young age.
Yeah, totally. It's I feel like all these books that people choose are always giving them some way of allowing them to see something in a new light, or, "Oh, this is allowed? Okay, great." 'Cause it's public.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I was so young that I don't even think I realized like, oh, you couldn't do that, right? I think there's a lot of people that are like, understandably, with so many narratives that are like, you can't be that, you can't do that. And I think because I had books like this, it was like, well, of course she goes on an adventure, and of course she's the one who plans it, and like, and of course she knows like how to how to direct an adventure, which is like such a funny thing when you think about it. But like, we often like, I'm a fantasy reader too, and I think about like in fantasy, you don't often get girls that are like, no, I'm like the Gandalf character planning this adventure. I know where I'm going. You know, like that was kind of fun that she was in charge and she was the boss. Plus, I love stories about siblings. I think I always do stories about family on some level or found family, and I think that's probably also why.
Right. So, do you have siblings?
I do. I have an older brother.
And did you ever go on any adventures like this?
Not running away to the Met, but I was always trying to keep up with him and his friends. Like I was his kid sister, and like we were all neighborhood kids, and I was the youngest of the neighborhood kids. So I was just like truly the wait up guys for me. Hey guys, don't leave me behind. So I did feel for the younger brother in that way because it's like, hey guys, I just want to be included. Hey guys. So I think that's probably also why I liked that she was in charge of the adventure too, because I never got to be in charge at that age. Because pecking order of kids in the neighborhood, and you're like, you're the youngest and the smallest, and everyone else is in charge, and we all get to decide what we're doing today.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I loved talking to you about this book.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me.
Join the conversation at withoutbooks.com.